Tonight on CTV News at 5.
To say, people really got on board and the momentum got going would be an understatement.
A young mom fighting ovarian cancer makes strides to help other women battle the disease.
How has money changed your life?
And from showing off to showing up, former Live at 5 host Nancy Regan gets real in her new book.
Like every part of it.
Model Citizens, our Maritimers of the Month, were on board to make a Nova Scotia man's dream come true.
Live from the Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 5 with Maria Panapalis and Jason Baxter.
Welcome back. So she won our hearts hosting this very show and became one of the most recognized people in the Maritimes. But Nancy Regan had a secret. She was struggling to keep it together. In her new book, From Showing Off to Showing Up, Nancy pulls back the curtain and gives us a vulnerable look at her inner battle and how she overcame it to live an authentic life. We welcome Nancy Regan back to our show. It's so good to see you.
Nancy Regan laughing at that video I just saw.
Isn't that something?
You've dug deep for this.
Oh, we have. You can thank Leo Carter for that, and there's lots more to come. This is a big deal. You've had, this big awakening. You got really real, really raw. You had the awakening. Why write a book about it?
Well, you know that well because you read it for me. She was one of my pre-readers, and I so appreciated it. And I guess I started out writing a book about the fear of public speaking. That's what I pitched to Nimbus Publishing.
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, when I coach a presentation with people who are fearful of being on stage, I am kind of soulful because I say, I can give you tips and tricks up here to address your fear, but you have to get at what it is under it.
Right.
And usually the fear of public speaking is the fear of being seen, and beneath that is the fear of being seen as inadequate, and beneath that is the fear that you are inadequate, and you really don't want anyone to know it. And that was something that I knew intimately, because that's what it was like for me on Live at 5. And I am a better actor than anybody knew. And the paradox is there that I did have amazing times doing this show. Like, it was the best show in the world. It's sort of like Charles Dickens.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Yeah.
The worst of times.
I have to, I'm going to quote you back to yourself here. You write this in your book. My life was perfect. I was confident, I was outgoing, I was in a happy marriage to the perfect man, I was the perfect mother, I loved my job. That all sounds great, doesn't it? Unfortunately, every one of those statements is false. I was false. So many people at home hearing that are probably shocked that you felt that way.
I think it probably, someone described to me recently, it kind of hits you in the gut, like, oh, but people relate to it. And I wasn't completely false, but there was definitely a mask. I was walking through the world with a mask, and the mask was meant to show people that everything was perfect. And perfectionism was a big hindrance for me. Liz Gilbert, who I talk about in the book, and she made a big difference for me. She says that perfectionism is just fear in fancy shoes. And the moment I heard that, I was like, oh, that was me on Live at 5, fear in fancy shoes. And I could do it, and I had fun, but I was also paralyzed with fear a lot of the time.
So what was it that actually got you to move out of it? So here's a picture with Liz and also your dear friend Anne. I just want to know, like, how you got out of it, why you decided that it was time to make a change.
Well, interestingly, you saw my friend Anne Bérubé up there, who has her own book coming out called The Burnout Antidote. And we've written our books basically together. We've done writing retreats simultaneously. And Anne does this amazing work called Embodied Emotion. And she just focuses on the idea that as human beings, we keep emotion inside. We don't want to show people the bad stuff. We don't want to, we just want to show them that mask. But if we take off the mask, what comes out? What comes out is our true self, only when we can get comfortable with who our true self is. And for me, it was why don't I like myself? Coming to the conclusion, I don't like myself. What is it I don't like about myself?
What was it that you didn't like about yourself?
Oh, you got to read the book for that. Nice try.
Okay, I will ask you this, though. You talk about family members, you know, parents, siblings, spouses in this book. Have they read the book? How do they feel about it?
It's not that bad. It's not that bad for them if they're watching now. I do. You know, the main person I wanted to have read the book was my first husband. And just because I was speaking about our life a little bit, and he is the best ex-husband in the world, I need to say, and he was great. He just said, yeah, he was proud of me and was happy with it. Now, my managing editor said, you know what? Often when you write a memoir, it's not a great idea to let your family members read it first, unless you have to.
Right.
Because if they want things changed, then what do? You know, where does that leave you? I didn't feel there was anything that anyone would be upset about. And I don't really write about my family members personally for the most part. But it's more in terms of what my experience was. And the idea of this book, Maria, is not about telling my story. It is part memoir, but it's about giving people the opportunity to see themselves in this story of mine. Because so many of us go through the world with self-doubt and insecurity that we're desperately trying to prevent the world from seeing. And the people who have read it so far, to my delight, have really reacted like, oh, I see myself in that.
Absolutely, and I can say that as somebody who's read the book, and I know, like, in the book you actually say success back then when you were trying to hide was keeping that mask on and doing a good job putting on that facade. But now success is showing yourself.
Showing up for real. And that's what I think of showing off as, putting myself out there in relation to how people are judging me, meeting people's expectations. Showing up is, this is the real deal. This is me. And I think when you can get to that place, all of a sudden, taking it back to public speaking, because although it didn't end up being a book about that, this is a good example, then you can be comfortable on stage because you're not fearful of people seeing you as being inadequate, because your deepest fear is no longer there that you're inadequate.
So we have to talk about Nancy as a little girl. If Nancy now could talk to little Nancy, who was just obsessed with, you know, getting approval, what would you say to her now?
Well, I talk to her all the time, to tell you the truth. There she is. Look at that. I sent this picture to Maria today to say, this is the kid who's going to show up on the show today.
And I said, I'm using this picture on TV.
How about that outfit? You know, that was me at a stage before, and this is the human condition, a stage before I was told how to be, who to be. And I think that for a lot of us, the calling is to do the work, to get really to a place of self-acceptance and ideally self-love. Most people don't like that term because it's so far from where they are. That's my theory. But it's really about getting back to who you were before the world told you who to be. And how to be a girl. You know, you'll notice on my book, I have my legs crossed but open. And a girlfriend of mine who I really trust said, I love the picture, but the legs, I don't know. And I said, okay, tell me why. And she said, well, I think it's because I was told as a kid
not to sit that way.
It's not ladylike. And I said, that's why I need to use the picture, because it's how I, you know, this is me in like Converse.
And you look great, and I love the book. And I need to tell people at home that Showing Off to Showing Up, An Imposter's Journey from Perfect to Present hits bookshelves on May 2nd. But you can pre-order it on Nancy's website. We've got a link on our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. Nancy, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and my website is nancyregan.ca.
Yes.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough. This has been surreal, but I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it.
Good to have you here.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Here's Jay.
Nancy, congratulations.